Hi, my name is Andrew Kinney. I'm an attorney at Hoglund Law Offices. I practice exclusively in the area of Social Security disability benefits and supplemental security income benefits, that's otherwise known as SSI. Today in this video I wanted to lay out what to look for in an attorney. I'm an attorney. There are other attorneys that do Social Security work. There's some attorneys that do Social Security work and other things. There's some non-attorneys that do Social Security disability work. They may call themselves advocates or representatives. There are a lot of different people that can help you with your Social Security claim. Here are the things that are good things to think about when you're making that first call or even looking at a website. First, are there attorneys that are licensed in the state that you're in? Why do you ask? Well, being licensed as an attorney is different than perhaps just going to law school. Also, being licensed as an attorney is perhaps the educational requirements that you might want when you're at a hearing with a federal judge who's also an attorney. So if you decided you want an attorney, the best way to find out is from when you call is, are there attorneys that are licensed in the state you're in that go to these hearings with you? Okay. The second question that might be good is, how familiar are these attorneys with the particular hearing office that would apply to your case? That's a complicated question, but the simple answer is, how often are the attorneys in that hearing office? Why does that matter? The hearing offices operate somewhat differently in the Social Security system. They have certain requirements that are uniform overall, but what you'll notice when you ask questions like this are, you'll get at the core of the question. Is my attorney that I would have at a Social Security hearing when I'm alone with a federal judge, is that attorney going to already know the judge? Is that attorney already going to know that that judge required a pre-hearing brief, a legal argument? Is that attorney going to know the judge in terms of whether the judge wants an opening statement? Is that judge going to listen to certain arguments over others? These are part of the legal judgment that if you want an attorney at your hearing, you need to know now. How familiar are the attorneys that go to these hearings in my area with this area? Another thing to think about is, if you have an attorney at your hearing, is that attorney going to write a brief at the appeals council for me if we go to appeals council? Appeals council is a level after a hearing. Why is that important? In my experience, if you have an attorney at a hearing, that attorney is best suited to write an argument at the appeals council. It's a written stage, at least the way it presently is set up, and the attorney that was at the hearing understands the cross-examination questions of the experts. The attorney at the hearing remembers the theory of the case that he or she developed, and so if you are having an attorney at your hearing, you can ask, do those attorneys generally stay on the case for the appeals council level so I can get the benefit of their memory and experience in terms of how to argue the case at the next level? Alternatively, someone could say, I don't have attorneys that handle that level, we have someone else write those. Well, you need to make a good decision, but in my experience, having continuity is important. There's another reason to consider whether you want an attorney in your region. Some cases need to go to federal district court. That's the level after the appeals council levels are exhausted. So it's an application, reconsideration, a hearing, appeals council. That is the end as this is currently set up. The next level is a civil action. You need to find out, is the attorney that was at my hearing going to be the same attorney not only at the appeals council level if we go to appeals council, but if it's possible, if you do go to federal court, is that going to be the same attorney that would argue it in federal court? If you have a non-attorney firm helping you, it has to be outsourced to a law firm. So there's a continuity that you may wish to have throughout this process. We don't go to federal court on all cases, or many. We're very selective, but that's important for you to know too. How often you go to federal court? If it's a non-attorney firm, the answer has to be 0, because the non-attorney firms or advocates cannot go to federal court technically. Another thing to think about is, at Social Security hearings with cross-examination, you have experts. Another question you can ask, and I know I'm loading this up, but think about this. If you're at a hearing office in your area of the country where you live, and you're hiring an attorney, and eventually you'll be in front of a federal judge in a hearing room, you're going to have a job expert that is perhaps going to testify against you, but you may also have a medical expert who will do the same. How familiar are the attorneys with the vocational experts and the medical experts in your region? It's one thing to do a lot of hearings, but it's another to know the experts. Experts, like anyone else, have their own opinions about the same facts. You can have the same facts, go through 5 hearings with 5 different experts, and perhaps get a slightly different answer. It's good for your attorney, in my experience, to know how the experts think, what evidence they look at that's important, because the cross-examination that your attorney will do of that medical expert or job expert depends on their experience with that expert. So if I made an overriding theme in this video, it's you need an attorney that's licensed with experience in your region of the country in the hearing office where you may go to a hearing. That would be the best advice that I would give even to my family. I'm giving it to you. Hopefully you can make a good informed decision. If you want to look at Hoglund Law Office's website, feel free to do so. We give information about how the law works and also information about medical problems and how Social Security reviews them. We try to be as exhaustive as possible. We also have different videos like this one on different topics. We've also included information in blogs that touch on specific topics. Feel free to look at that, compare us to other firms that you might want to hire. That's important for you to do. If you would like to consider hiring us, feel free to call us. There's no obligation at 1-800-850-7867. Also know that if we do help you either apply or appeal, we don't charge unless you're approved, and we don't charge anything else other than a quarter of attorney fees, and the current cap as of this video is $6,000. So look at the bottom line. If you're going to sign with an attorney, make sure you understand the fee agreement. It's your right to know whether you'll be charged for medical records, whether there's a minimal charge other than a quarter of back pay. You need to know how that works, and good luck and make a good decision, and hopefully you can either at least get better, but if not, if you can get Social Security benefits, that would be excellent. Thank you.